Undertaker have his final match with would be Sting, obviously because of the fans giving us the impression they want to see it in the exclusive interview with Sting the night after WrestleMania 31 in the fallout of his match with Triple H. They were questioning Sting's future. Renee Young brought the question to Sting up about, who he would face next, when we would see him again, and before Sting was given a chance to answer, the fans started chanting Undertaker, and that implied to me, and it should have implied to everybody watching at home or the subscribers on the internet and throughout social media, the Undertaker versus Sting is obviously going to be the match we're going to see next year at WrestleMania 32. Not to mention that there's just something about the venue for WrestleMania 32 being emanating from Dallas, Texas, and how the Undertaker's character has fit perfectly over the years with Dallas, Texas, and venues in Texas. The state of Texas has been good to The Undertaker, and he's had quite the reputation, especially as the American badass, if not as the original Undertaker, in Texas for years. I mean, he defeated Hulk Hogan at pay-per-views like Tuesday in Texas back in the day, and he competed against some of the greats from Texas. So I think there's just something about Texas that fits perfectly with The Undertaker retiring and the sun setting, preferably on The Undertaker's career. I don't want to see him go. But I think The Undertaker versus Sting would be perfect for the venue of Texas next year at WrestleMania 32 on what I believe is the date of April 3rd, which is going to be a great WrestleMania. This is going to be one of the more unpredictable matches we have ever seen as wrestling fans. And not to mention, it's the one dream match we have yet to witness. We have seen everything from The Rock versus John Cena, The Rock versus Goldberg, The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. We've seen Batista versus John Cena, Randy Orton versus John Cena. So many dream matches over the years that have been talked about, but this is the one dream match that we have yet to see, and I think it's time. The time has never been better to see The Undertaker versus Sting with so much conversation going on about it throughout social media. Everybody's giving their predictions on who would win this match. Some fans, it's like 50% of the fans want The Undertaker to win the match. The other 50% want Sting to win the match. Now, be it that Sting lost his match with Triple H at WrestleMania 31 earlier this year, I think whoever Sting faces, now I've gone on record for saying this, I think whoever Sting faces by next year's WrestleMania, even if it isn't The Undertaker, he will defeat. And I think the loser of the Undertaker-Sting match, if it happens at WrestleMania 32, the stipulation is going to be for the Undertaker to retire. The loser of the match, after being respectively true to their brands over the years, WWE for the Undertaker World Championship Wrestling, WCW for Sting, the loser of this match, especially because of their significance throughout the Monday Night War, which lasted over 86 weeks with the ratings going back and forth simultaneously between WWE and WCW. The loser of the match would have to leave and never return again. And obviously the loser of the match would be The Undertaker in the way of how he defeated Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 26 in Texas in 2010, or in Arizona in 2010. Shawn Michaels, if he couldn't defeat The Undertaker, had to retire. And of course, Shawn Michaels lost. The Undertaker went to 18-0, and then Shawn Michaels gave his farewell speech the following night on Raw with a tribute from everybody, including The Undertaker. And I think The Undertaker's tribute the night after WrestleMania 32 next year is going to be an amazing tribute if this is followed through with. I don't think you could have a bigger main event, not to mention at WrestleMania 32, because at WrestleMania's last 30 years, we have seen virtually every main event you can think of, from Hulk Hogan to The Ultimate Warrior, all the way back from that to matches like John Cena versus The Rock. We have seen everything at WrestleMania. The only other dream match that we haven't seen that I can think of, rather than The Undertaker versus Sting, would be Brock Lesnar versus Dave Batista. And Dave Batista is not coming back anytime soon because of what originally was supposed to have happened. For Dave Batista, he was supposed to have come in by WrestleMania 30. He was supposed to have fought Brock Lesnar then and there. He was supposed to have won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Nothing was ever done with that. Nothing was ever followed through with that. So be it that we're not going to see Brock Lesnar versus Dave Batista anytime soon as the other dream match. On the other side of the coin, you have The Undertaker versus Sting, which has the better chance of happening. Now, be it The Undertaker and Sting are under the same under contracts in the same company. The chances of this are far better than they were probably 5 or 10 years ago. Now, preferably, I would have rather seen this match back in the early thousands, because if you would have seen this match back in the early thousands, they would have been younger. They would have been more, into wrestling each other than what they are now at 50, 60 years of age. I mean, Sting alone is 58 years of age. So if you would have done this match, say, 10 years ago, the performance level of both The Undertaker and Sting would be definitely significantly better than what it's going to be if it happens as early as next year, as opposed to having them face each other at 58 through 60 years of age, which is an amazing age for them to actually have this match with, as opposed to 10 years ago. This match is happening definitely far too late in wrestling history and should have happened 10 years earlier than what it's happening. Now, I'm not saying anything about The Undertaker's ability to perform, because The Undertaker performs better than half the new talent that used to roster, just as Sting did against Triple H. It was almost as if Sting didn't lose a step from WCW. I mean, he brought that same kind of tenacity from WCW over to WWE, which I have a great deal of respect for Sting for doing. Steve Borden is still as good as he ever was back when he was the bleach blonde Sting, and he was wrestling in World Championship Wrestling as the U.S. champion, facing people like Ric Flair and Vader for a title at one time, which was looked at with having a lot of prestigiousness, and Sting carried it with so much pride. He was really the poster child, as John Cena is for WWE, and The Undertaker was back in the 90s. He was really true to WCW, and his loyalty to WCW brought him success in that promotion. Bischoff and Turner realized his tenacity and his drive for World Championship Wrestling, and that kept him away from WWE for a number of years, which is why I think that The Undertaker has a chance of winning this match, even though The Undertaker's retirement is being talked about and discussed throughout social media. And I say that because of how true Sting was to World Championship Wrestling. Sting had been approached numerous times over the years by WWE to sign a long-term contract with them. And by 2005, after being approached a number of times, he went on YouTube. He took to YouTube and posted this very controversial YouTube video, which so many people talked about throughout the professional wrestling world, saying that Sting went a little bit too far, may have went a little bit too far, and crossed the line, as TNA's slogan professed the wrestlers were doing, saying he would never work for the WWE or the McMahon family. He hated Vince McMahon and Triple H, which this storyline with Triple H was based off of and thrived off of in 2015 at WrestleMania 31. They mentioned World Championship Wrestling, how Sting had remained loyal to it, and for the first time ever, WWE and WCW were truly going to go head-to-head in a one-on-one match, definitely being more infamous than matches like Goldberg and The Rock and matches we have seen with WWE and WCW superstars going head-to-head from the past. Definitely this match is at the top of the list in collisions where WWE superstars have faced WCW superstars in a WWE ring. And so much was thrived for this feud because of Sting's history and loyalty with World Championship Wrestling. Now, because of that controversial video that Sting posted in 2005, I think The Undertaker may have a chance of winning this match, because they may not let Sting defeat The Undertaker after The Undertaker did so much for WWE. And if there's one guy to go out on top in the professional wrestling business that you would expect to go out on top, it would be The Undertaker. How can The Undertaker lose his last match? Tombstone Sting fold up his arms and they shake hands at the end of the match. Two of the biggest phenoms, two of the biggest icons of the respective companies and their era shaking hands. And if this match happens, let me state this for the record. The purpose of having the end of an era match at WrestleMania 28 back in 2012 has been completely and utterly shattered and defeated. And I say that because we say the era of The Undertaker and Triple H and Shawn Michaels would never have been returned to, but how many times have we returned to that era since this match? At least 3 or 4 times I can account for. And remember, since the end of an era match, we have gone back to that era. Sting and Triple H was a return back to that era. I mean, how many of you thought about the war between WWE and WCW that thrived off of the hatred between WWE and WCW talent and lasted for a number of weeks that almost shut WWE's doors? I mean, we went back to the era with that. We're going to be going back to that era again at WrestleMania 32 by the time we see The Undertaker versus Sting. And we're going to have a lot of conversation then. We're going to see a lot of footage on the WWE Network of Sting and The Undertaker wrestling for their respective brands back in the earlier 90s of their careers and the earlier stages and evolutionary processes of their careers. We're going to go back to that era again, so definitely having this match defeats the purpose of ever having a match where the end of an era was solidified by The Undertaker and Triple H facing off inside of Hell in a Cell. There's so much that's going to happen because of this match, and if anything comes of this match, it's going to be the retirement of The Undertaker, and I hate to have to say this, because Sting did not sign with WWE to come back to lose. Yes, he may have lost to Triple H and may have agreed to lose to Triple H, but there's no way Triple H is going to continue this losing streak, which he had been on for a number of months, actually a number of years, if you actually want to be more specific, because Triple H has not won a match since 2013, and because Triple H had not won a match since 2013, the chances of him defeating Sting, and with how Sting had a psychological advantage over Triple H weeks before WrestleMania 31 were far greater than Sting defeating Triple H, which I hated to have to admit to you, because I was a huge fan of Sting in that match with Triple H, with how they treated Sting in that match with Triple H, the NWO and DX getting involved the way they did, Shawn Michaels super kicking Sting in the face, was pissed off over that. We don't know when Sting is going to compete again, where Sting is going to compete to, and who Sting is going to compete with in the ring. And that is something we need to know, even if it isn't The Undertaker. Let's say, for argument's sake, it's Bray Wyatt. If it's Sting versus Bray Wyatt, for instance, if not The Undertaker, for next year's WrestleMania, or even in an earlier date, in an earlier time frame, we need to know who Sting is going to compete against next, and when Sting is going to compete next. Because if we don't know that, then we're just left in the dark with Sting's future with professional wrestling. And I've talked about Sting's future for professional wrestling on my column for In This Corner with Jonathan Clarke, saying we need a lot of these questions answered when it comes to Sting. More importantly, the questions we have to have answered are, who is Sting going to compete in the ring with again next, and when is Sting going to compete again next? What is the venue for Sting's next match, and what are the circumstances going to be for Sting's next match? What is the ultimate purpose for having Sting under contract with WWE? Is it to have fought Triple H, or was it to have become champion, or was it to have fought The Undertaker in The Undertaker's final match, which has been debated for years? And there have been a lot of debates about who The Undertaker's final opponent should be. If not Sting, it was supposed to have been Kane. The Rock was another suggestion, for The Rock to defeat the One to become the One and retire The Undertaker, the Phenom of the WWE. Stone Cold Steve Austin. There have been a number of opponents thrown the way of The Undertaker. I'd even go to see The Undertaker versus